Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
Brad, what were your rules again about the mock draft that I represented Detroit on? Like, who did I have to walk away with that pick?
Byfield, Stützle, Raymond, Rossi, or you had to retire.
Okay, so I'm not going to tell you who was picked second overall. I will say third was Lucas Raymond. And I took Stützle fourth. Byfield went second. I don't know. I was just trying to mess with you there.
Yeah,
I live another day.
Yeah, you told me that like a week ago.
Did I actually?
This wasn't news to me.
Damn it. Oh, well. I was very ready for Raymond. Like, I was very, very ready for Raymond. I had a whole, page of notes up, and then they took Raymond, and I went, well, I didn't really think Stützle would fall this far, and then I had to start talking out my ass. I'm not completely, obviously, I know about Stützle, but I was really expecting Raymond. And you know what I felt as I was picking Stützle? Man, I wish I could have drafted Raymond. Which is I personally have Stützle ahead of Raymond. I do. But you just get married to the pick, which is something that we're guilty of every year.
We've come full circle.
We're there. Yeah, we're definitely there.
We can at least say this time it's a month later than usual, even if it is 2 months ahead of the draft.
And we're still 3 months away from any semblance of Red Wings taking the ice. 4 months away from hockey at minimum.
At best, because basically every minor hockey association, semi-pro shit show, and major junior hockey league in Canada has announced they're aiming for a December 1st start date. So gotta think the NHL will be on that trajectory as well for next season.
But guys, the NHL told us we got to be excited right now. They told us. They said, we're not, you don't get the first overall pick, but you've got all this time to be excited.
About what?
Yes, exactly.
They just said be excited.
Just
Brad,
be excited. Doesn't matter about what.
Don't be a downer, Brad.
Do you know what there is to be excited about in 2020?
Nothing. It ending?
We beat Murder Hornets.
Did we, though?
Yeah, that storyline definitely just kind of fell away. There's no real resolution. That one's going to come back in the third act.
That's because everybody who's encountered the Murder Hornets is now dead and cannot tell the story. Hence the name Murder.
Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. I'm Ryan Hanna.
I have the flu.
Oh, the flu, huh? Oh. Evan?
Yes, I'm Evan.
You weren't here last episode, so I'm thinking any new listeners from last episode or people who kind of forgot you existed might want to know. Evan's now our AV guru, because without you here, I was not able to handle all of the audio and video recording on my own. It corrupted the file.
Hey, it happens, man. It's all
You're indispensable.
Good.
It's your nightmare. You are now indispensable to this podcast.
Yes, for job security.
You
At least one of my jobs has it now.
Yeah, well. It's like when I go to a cottage, everyone's like, don't forget to get your boating license. I refuse.
Have you looked into how long it takes to write that? And I think it's gotten worse since I wrote it. So originally you used to just be able to go to boating shows and just write it there in half an hour. It was super easy. They don't expire. Best time ever.
I did mine on the internet in 2002 and it took me 15 minutes.
Yeah. So now it's 5 hours to do it, and they time gate it. So you can't just fly through the material and just write the test and hope for the best. It's brutal.
I want to, when I'm anywhere with a boat, I want to be drinking. And so I immediately have a drink, and so I can never be responsible for the boat. Ryan, don't you want to get on the Sea-Doo? No. I'll be on the back. I don't care.
The Sea-Doo is fun. But
seems like it.
I feel like we've had this conversation before.
We have.
Boat is an acronym?
Yeah.
Bring on another 1,000?
Yeah.
That's my friends who have boats and Sea-Doos, they are constantly under repair. It's just absurd.
We need more than a full-time producer. You know what we need is a virtual whiteboard that's visible to all three of us at the same time, where we have a map of conversations we've had in our personal lives with each other and conversations we've had on the podcast with each other.
I could set something up behind me. We would just need to get the whiteboard.
Who's gonna man it? Like as things come up.
I got a wireless headphones, so I can make it work.
Oh, all right. On this episode of the Wind Wheel Podcast, we'll be, of course, talking about the chaotic first round to absolutely nobody's surprise. Some updates on some Red Wings, possible half give me something solution proposed by the 7 GMs of non-playoff teams before getting to our prospect profile and overtime. So, believe it or not, 5-game series, extremely chaotic. A lot of luck, a lot of unpredictability. Who could have guessed?
One team's already dead and another one might be tonight.
Kudos. Okay, so Carolina absolutely proved everyone who doubted them wrong. I think I even had them losing in 5 games, and they did not miss a step. Holy hell, were they firing on all cylinders, and did they show up when they needed to? They made New York look like an 11th seed.
And they were missing 2 of their top 3 defensemen.
Which is incredible.
Good luck, rest of the Eastern Conference.
Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechnikov are so good. It absolutely hurts. They were so good as I was watching them. I was like, they can't go into this lottery. Because if they now get Lafreniere, like that's kind of sick. Like that won't be okay for the rest of the teams in the East.
Half the teams in the lottery are going to be sick if they get at Lafreniere. Right now, we're 1 loss away from Edmonton and Pittsburgh being in it. The Rangers are in it, and their forwards are already scary enough. Toronto, Columbus, I don't know where that's at right now, but that series is tied as of recording this, so Jesus, this is going to be terrible.
So as of recording, Toronto and Columbus are playing at the moment, and it's 2-0 Toronto. So
good for the lottery then.
Look, I'm not going to do a renewed rant. Everyone's heard my feelings about the lottery. I will come out with more anger and stuff if some pre-anger based on how many teams that don't deserve it are in there, and then depending on the result. But let's put this out there right now. Teams that are good in my mind for the lottery, I want Columbus to lose just so Toronto's not in it. I don't care between Winnipeg and Calgary. I don't care between Nashville and Arizona. Pittsburgh and Montreal. Look, I've joked a lot about Montreal, and I've joked a lot about, not wanting them to have the satisfaction of Lafreniere, and I've joked a lot about, it'd be funny considering the Zadina Kotkaniemi thing to have them not get Lafreniere. But I don't know about Pittsburgh, man. I don't know about Pittsburgh winning it. I don't know how I feel about it. To have 2 of the greatest players of all time and then getting Lafreniere as their careers are on their last third in their final act? No.
My reason for hating Pittsburgh is, well, frankly, I'm too sick to care. I'm going to just shit all over his city right now. This is a team that went from Mario to Yager to Crosby and now potentially to Lafreniere. And the one small window in that 30-year stretch where they didn't have any of them, they almost moved. This city doesn't deserve more hockey happiness. They have swung above their hockey fandom this entire damn time. And I know, I'm not standing on my horse, I know 80% of NHL teams are like this. When they're bad, they don't sell out. Detroit's doing the same damn thing right now. But the rest of the cities don't come to the point where the new potential owner's actually selling tickets in a new city. Pittsburgh tanked the worst tank of all time their way into Mary Lemieux, lucked their way into Jaromir Jagr, bullshit lucked their way into Sidney Crosby. If they get Lafreniere because of this, I think I might actually have a stroke.
Yeah, I've boiled it down to, surprise, surprise, a very Red Wings biased who I would want to win the lottery, and that is anyone other than Toronto, Pittsburgh, or Chicago. And if you're sitting there thinking, but Ryan, that means Edmonton winning yet another first overall pick and then filling out the greatest player on the planet in Connor McDavid and one of the best players on the planet, Leon Draisaitl, with a possible generational winger or at least a superstar winger in Alexis Lafreniere, I say yes. Because 1, fun hockey. 2, Western Conference. And 3, it would create so much league-wide outrage. I would bet all of my money that the NHL finally changes this dumbass system.
No, they won't.
That would push them over. I think that would push them over the edge.
No chance, because you know what they're going to say? 2020 was weird. It was a pandemic. Never going to happen again. One off, weird. They have... Here's the problem with this. They have every excuse in the book because it never will happen again. They would, in all likelihood, I would hope society learns a goddamn lesson, but in all likelihood, it won't happen again. So we won't have this stupid one-off garbage system that they put on top of their original garbage system. It doesn't matter. Do you know what? Like, I just can't wrap my head around this because we knew. I can't even be mad about the result of these play-in series. We knew it would be chaotic. We knew every team's coming in cold. We know the NHL truly is getting closer to a league of parity. So a 12 seed beating a 5 seed isn't unheard of. Like, it's very well in the realm of possibility. And the fact that both 12 seeds are winning 2-1 right now is just a testament to that. It's that they tainted it. The stupid draft lottery looming over this ruins all of it because as much as Montreal's beating Pittsburgh, they're up to it. Do you know how much I should be enjoying this? Watching the Penguins and Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin fall flat on their damn face. And I can't. I can't enjoy this. Even if it is only 12.5%. It doesn't matter. I hate this. I hate it so much. I mean, I'm still rooting them for to lose because their fan base would melt down. It'd be the brief window would be amazing. But, and well, let's be honest, if we're looking at purely Detroit selfish reasons, it's better Montreal wins because then at least he's out of division. But
what? Oh.
Yeah, Lafreniere going to Pittsburgh's better for Detroit than him going to Montreal.
Yeah, it is. It 100% is.
That's the silver lining there because we should want Montreal to win. We should want Florida to win. We should want Toronto to win because then he stays out of division. We don't have to see him 8 times a year. But
oh my God.
Could you imagine?
Completely unrelated story. I forgot to tell you guys this, and this is for the listeners too. For those of you who watch on YouTube, we apologize. I saw a comment and it's like, what's with all the ads, guys? Not cool. And I was like, all the ads? I was like, we haven't changed our ad settings at all. Well, I looked into it and YouTube decided that they were automatically going to start placing mid-roll ads. And they're like, we're going to place them automatically unless you opted out. And I was like, well, we weren't opted in. Like, well, why'd you automatically opt us in? And they're like, we're going to place them naturally in your video. I swear to God, there were 30 ad breaks in our last video.
Oh.
I scrolled down and there was 30. The first one was a minute in. I was like, what is that?
So in theory, we should be rich.
I think a lot of people stopped watching. It was horrendous. Anyways, we fixed it. And I'll be triple checking every time now. So apologies for that, guys. You will not have 30 mid-roll ad breaks. I don't think we'll ever have 30 mid-roll ad breaks. That's worse than actual TV. Anyhow, yeah, the playoffs or the qualifying round. So Pittsburgh and Montreal, that's actually been like the prototypical series that we were talking about when we were coming into this. We said a team that has no business beating another team gets a couple strokes of luck and all of a sudden they're up 2-1, which is essentially what's happening right now with the Habs over the Penguins. Both of their games that they won are 1-goal games. The first one was in overtime. It's not exactly been Montreal dominance, but it doesn't matter. If you get the result, you get the result. Carolina was just pure dominance over New York. Carolina looks good. They look really good.
Oh, they look unbelievably good.
You said Carolina, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob Slavin is...
no joke.
No joke. I don't know if he's underrated, just not talked about enough. But however much people are talking about him, he deserves a lot more credit. He is a fantastic player.
He's 2 years away from being the new Alex Barkov, where he was so underrated for so long that eventually he's going to be overrated.
Yeah,
I think everybody will talk him into like being the best defenseman in the league, even though he's not far off, but he's not there.
Well, he's yet another defenseman, right? That like for the last 3 years has been discussed as a possible trade piece for a lot of teams. How close he ever actually came is one story or another.
I miss those rumors.
Well, yeah, and then you look at like I'm not just trying to shit on Toronto fans, but like he was a target for a lot of Toronto fans in their mocks, and a lot of people said, "Oh, I wouldn't give up that much for Slavin." And it's like, did we not learn our lesson with Hedman? Like, when you have a defenseman with this much potential and who's performed this well at such a young age, stop capping them so low. Stop putting their ceiling so close to where they're at age 22. They're defensemen. They're going to get way better, and they're going to keep getting better. So, yeah, good on Slavin and good on Carolina. Toronto's now winning 3-0 against Columbus in Game 3.
Yay and shit. I hate this.
Edmonton and Chicago, it's actually been discovered by the NHL upon visiting the hotel rooms that they didn't bring any defense or goaltenders to the bubble. So those games have been fun. I mean, in terms of production, depending on what you want to see. I mean, Connor McDavid's a freak. He maintains, like, he still is a freak, but that whole series.
He's the fastest kid alive.
He actually is. A 7-goal game, 9-goal game, and 10-goal game. The lowest scoring game has been a 7-goal game between the two of them.
And Connor McDavid's had 8 goals in that stretch, or like 100, and he's the reason they're losing, according to one moron in Colorado.
Yeah, and they had the late collapse last game where I think Taves scored with a couple minutes left. So
can I defend Edmonton just a little bit on that one though? Because yeah, it looks really bad when you give up 2 late goals. But how many point shots are taken in a game? A dozen, 2 dozen? How many of them go in? Sometimes 1. Chicago had 2 go in the last 5 minutes. That's a little fluky. One of them went off an Edmonton player. The other one was a nice tip by a Hawks. But like that, you take those 2 shots over again 100 times, you're not scoring on both of them any of those times. Like no. It's a bit fluky.
And that's the beauty of a 5-game series, right? And I use beauty completely ironically here, because whether you like this chaos or not, it's happening. Like, a fluky 2 minutes of play means that Chicago now is the odds-on favorite to defeat Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Edmonton Oilers to move on. Chicago, who is so far out of the play-ins, or who is so far out of the playoffs before this, they were talking more about the lottery than anything else.
Well, remember how when this whole thing started and the whole proposal of this, and we were calling it a farce, like this whole thing was farcical, and people are like, well, it's fair. I'm like, no, Montreal had a 0 point something chance. They had a less than 1% chance of making the playoffs, and now it's 75 at worst. Same thing with Chicago. They were outside the thought of playoffs, and they're going to be going to the second round. Again, entertainment value, here for it, love it. But man, is this hard to justify, especially with the overlooming arch that the NHL somehow managed to shit on themselves after they shit on themselves. Of now we might give Connor McDavid Alexis Lafreniere to play with, and
again, out west, and it's fun hockey. It also, is just sequester all the best players on one team, so it's better for Detroit in the long run as well. I maintain that.
It's fun, but in reality, this is gonna absolutely tilt the landscape of the NHL if Edmonton or Pittsburgh don't come back here, because if both of them are out, that means there's a 25% chance that Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid is adding Alexis Lafreniere to their line next year.
6.5% chance better than Detroit had.
Oh, God damn it.
Nashville, Arizona, Darcy Kemper continues
real
to be
good.
Great. Yeah, really awesome. I think he's the biggest reason why Arizona's up 2-1 in that series. Those are 2 teams where I'm like, I don't care who gets through. I'd be happy if either of them moves on or either of them wins Alexis Lafreniere. Vancouver, Minnesota. Minnesota is no slouch. I mean, they lost earlier today 3-0, but before that, they only lost 4-3 and they won their first game by 3 goals. So,
well, they're down and they're 1 game away from elimination now.
They're 1 game away from elimination, but that's been a surprisingly entertaining series. And then Calgary, Winnipeg, which is where Calgary is up 2-1. Winnipeg has had a rough time.
Oh, man. Okay. So what happens when you take a team with the likely Vezina winner, incredibly horrid defense, and then take out arguably their 2 best forwards? This is what you get. They are lucky to have the 1.
Yeah. I feel bad. Also, it's worth noting that like injuries and people who came back before this qualifying round started was so hard to track. Like everything I read was that Crawford wasn't going to play, and all of a sudden, a couple days before, they're like, "Oh no, he's in." I was like, "Oh, okay." He's playing on the ice. Got it. But Dougie Hamilton stayed out, right? For the whole series?
I believe so.
So it was just 3 games. Anyhow, well, all 3 of us picked the Rangers over Carolina, so.
Yep. Well,
whoopsies.
We said this was going to be chaos, so whatever we pick the opposite. So far, it's holding up. I think I had Winnipeg over Calgary, too, and that dream could be dead tonight.
Let's just check in on our predictions right now. So we all had the Rangers. Me and Evan had the Islanders, and you had Florida, Brad.
Still got hope. Not much.
Evan, all 3 of us had Vancouver. All 3 of us had Edmonton. All 3 of us had Pittsburgh. Myself and Brad had Arizona. Evan had Nashville. All 3 of us had
good.
All 3 of us had Winnipeg. I had Toronto, and you 2 had Columbus.
God, I'm such an idiot.
Quote of the day. Title of the episode. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a hypothetical, and this is something that I said on Twitter, and it actually churned quite a bit of discussion. And not that I think I'm like necessarily guaranteed right, but I want to get your take on it. So I got a question from, and I want to find who asked this because they deserve the shout out. It was from Ryan Walker on Twitter. He says, would you rather watch Detroit continue to go with this rebuild as per Yzerman and Verbeek's plan, or would you rather have what Toronto has now as basically their cap-maxed final product?
I mean, it would be nice to watch Matthews and Marner every night. And who's to say Toronto's not going to win a Stanley Cup with that team?
Yeah, I think I'm taking Toronto here.
They could still get some ELCs later down the road.
Yeah, and they have their problems. Don't get me wrong. Like, they still need to find a defense. They have the ammo, though, to fix whatever problem they want. They have a goalie. They have their top 2 centers. They have some of the best wingers in hockey. They can easily move one of them to a team that's offensive starved and grab a defenseman. They could draft defenseman. I mean, a good coach like Barry Trotz, hypothetically, can get the most out of a bad defense. I don't know. I think Toronto has everything there to win a cup. They just have to fit all the right shapes through the right slots.
Yeah, and that's what I said as well. Like, teams who go through rebuilds would be extremely lucky to have 2 stars at the level that Toronto has, which is Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, and then not to mention their like really good offensive depth. Even if you just get Matthews, like Matthews will likely go down as the best goal scorer of his generation, otherwise like one of the best, right? Like if all things continue as they currently are, like he is a special goal scoring talent. And that's not, you don't get that in every rebuild. You get that in virtually no rebuilds. And to walk away with that and then still add a 100-point playmaker and Mitch Marner, and then you get Tavares. I don't know. Like, I get it. That team has been mired in controversy, and they've snatched defeat from the jaws of victory multiple times. Like, they just can't seem to put it together. But removing all the curse of Toronto away from it, like that team on paper is one hell of a team to come out of a rebuild with. And then you add Steve Yzerman to the mix, and like Brad said, you make a couple moves, you have the ammunition to make those moves. And I was having a conversation. I understand it's not I agree that it's not easy to trade for a defenseman, but you don't necessarily need to trade for like Carolina or Nashville's blue line. No, you need 1 or 2 good enough pieces to push you over the edge. Will your defense be pretty when you win the cup when you're that stacked offensively? No, of course not. Neither was Pittsburgh's when they won in 2016.
So, and here's the thing, too. We have to compare this directly to the Red Wings rebuild because we're 3 years deep in this rebuild right now, whether fans want to admit it or not. The rebuild started when they missed the playoffs. In those 3 years, they've had 3 top 10 picks and an extra first-round pick. Is any one of those players looking likely to be better than any one of Toronto's top 4 players? I would bet no. So, of course I'm going to trade with Toronto. Are you kidding me? Like, what is Philip Zadina's best case scenario right now? He's a slightly better William Nylander, which is great. That is tremendous value for 6th overall. So don't make this sound like I'm dumping on Zadina. I think Zadina could be great, and I think he likely will be as good as William Nylander. But what's his best case scenario? He's not Tavares, he's not Marner, he's not Matthews. In terms of value to the team, he's probably not Morgan Rielly. You're crazy if you don't make that trade. Because what would it take for Detroit to get the equivalent of Marner, Tavares, Matthews, Nylander, Rielly, Anderson? You're talking about another 4 to 6 years of rebuilding of top 10 pick. Is any one of us comfortable sitting here and saying, yeah, let's ride this bitch out for 5 more years of being in the basement? I'm not.
That is 4 more fantastic drafts.
And that's hitting a home run in every one of those drafts. That's a scary thing. The Leafs missed on some. Remember when they picked Luke Schenn in the top 10? And the Leafs did not make the playoffs from, 2004 to 2017? Yeah, I'm not ready for that kind of a friggin' slump.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't agree, which is again, I think there's definitely an argument to be made. I don't think this is black and white, but Toronto didn't do this in 3 years. They did this with the better part of 2 decades, in my mind, of just not being good enough. And that's how they built up these pieces. It was a lot of luck, but also just slogging through the shit. And if you give me an opportunity to say, yeah, let's skip through the part where we don't slog through the shit. Sure, it's not the world's most perfect rebuild, but I'll take it. 100%, I'll take it. I get it. It's not an attractive thing to say, no, forget our own process. Let's take our mortal enemies team. But it's a hypothetical. So just remember that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and you can even narrow it down. What was it? The Leafs made the playoffs in that shortened season, 2013. I forgot about that one. If you look at the rebuild from then on, you still make the trade. Because Nylander, Matthews, Marner, they all came after that.
Yeah.
Would I have signed Tavares if I was the Leafs in that position? No, probably not. Not for that money, especially with the hole on defense. But hey, you have him now. He's an asset. Use him.
Think of how much we talk about Lafreniere and how good he is and how special the talent he is. I still think projected, obviously not making any guarantees here, I don't think he's projected to be better than Matthews.
No, he's not.
I think right now we're talking McDavid, obviously, Matthews, obviously, and then Lafreniere's not best case, but Lafreniere is looking to slot in third of that group, which is still one of the best players on the planet if he pans out and he doesn't flop or middle out. But Toronto hit a lot of good strokes there. And again, not always intentionally, and it wasn't pretty while they did it. They're still paying the price of previous mistakes, which is, look at their defense. They had to pay a first to get rid of Marleau. They paid Leo Komarov that much money. It's not to say that they've had a perfect process. Anyhow, I just want to run that hypothetical by you guys. Okay, anything else about the play-in before we move on? I know next episode will be closer and have a better idea of who's in the lottery.
Well, yeah, because the next phase of the draft lottery is in 4 days. It's Monday.
Monday, right? You guys want to live stream that? It'll be the world's saddest live stream.
No, I'm not watching it. I'm not giving the NHL my view on that. I know how petty and insignificant that is, but I just out of principle, I'm going to. They came up with a garbage system in all likelihood because they knew this event would attract eyes, and it will, but I'm not going to be one of them. I'll get my update on Twitter.
All right, cool. We're going to live stream, Brad, and Evan and I will tell you what happens.
Sounds great.
Okay, moving on. Toronto is up 3-1 over the Jackets, by the way.
Oh, cue the comeback.
Okay, moving on. Some Red Wings news. Seider has been officially loaned to the DEL, which is a gimme. Obviously, that's a good choice because he won't be playing meaningful hockey up until November at best. So it's good to get him some reps in over there. Hopefully that doesn't get interrupted as long as there aren't any spikes in that part of Europe. So Seider going back to Germany to play pro hockey just makes sense. A similar thing was mentioned about Zadina and Veleno playing on Zadina's dad's team in the Czech League. That has been on pause. Apparently there's a pretty big outbreak in the Czech Republic right now where things are spiking again. So haven't heard any movement or confirmation of that. It's just mostly been rumors. So we'll sit tight on that. Hronek is in the Czech Republic right now, right? Or
I don't know. I have not been following personal lives very closely.
There's a good chance I think he could end up over there as well. But again, I don't think I've seen any confirmation. And the only other, Evan was leaning in for a drink, and I thought he was about to say something super intently. Also, the reason I keep looking down at my phone is because my friend who doesn't live far from me just texted me. He said, "Are you guys, did your power go out?" I was like, "No." He goes, "Oh, well, you're on the outage map." I was like, "Oh, well, might happen soon."
Well, yep. If the podcast dies, we know why. And fair warning, if your power goes out, that's just the end of the episode. I'm going to bed.
Then Evan, you have to pick up your speed. No. I need to retain one of you. Come on. Evan, you're the recording.
Yeah. So I have more power than Brad.
Shit.
I'm leaving.
Yeah, well, based on what's going on in my stomach right now, I might not make it to the end of the episode anyway, so you guys might not get a choice.
Oh, and there was a proposal from the 7 GMs of non-playoff teams. Essentially, one of the quotes from the article, I think Craig Custins posted it. It was, "We just want what the other 24 teams got," which I laughed a lot at. I was like, "Oh, yeah, you won't get that. You already lost that when they got disproportional chances at both the lottery and making the playoffs. So yeah, you're not getting anything. If you want to fight for something, that was a few months ago, pal, not now." But here we are. So their plan that they've landed on was initially they talked about a September like mini tournament, and players were like, "No, why would they do all that work to go into a bubble to play just to leave and then to start back up in November? Like, that doesn't quite make sense." And then what they've eventually landed on was extending training camp in November, their planned date, by an additional 2 weeks in front to give them like a mini camp.
So are we talking every team, or that extension would be just for the 7 teams?
Just for the 7 teams, I believe.
Hell yeah, that'll give us a nice enough and big enough advantage to drag us from dead last to still dead last, but maybe only by 10 points this time.
Just what I want, to prolong the suffering. Give me more training camp so I can watch how bad our team is.
Look, I'm not going to complain about how bad the Red Wings are. I would kill to see a Red Wings jersey on the ice right now. I don't know.
Yeah, because if we prolong it enough and the season goes like last, there's a good chance you'll see a Red Wings jersey on the ice because several fans will be throwing them.
If they... I don't know. I'm not so worried. Like, 2 weeks at the start of the season for me just won't do anything. Like, I get it. They want to get their players some more reps in, and that I understand. I just still don't think they have the logistics of late 2020 figured out yet. I'm not going to predict to know where everything is going to be at by then, but like, a lot has to change. And so I sure hope things have been sorted out enough where they can run this outside of just the 2 bubbles. Otherwise, the only solution might be like 3 bubbles. Like,
oh no, it's
Inception level.
Yeah. I have zero hope for hockey actually getting underway in any semblance by the end of this year, because I actually had to start putting a plan together at work today about what I'm going to do, because do you know what usually happens around that time of year? It's cold and flu season. Do you know what symptoms the common cold is similar to? COVID-19.
Your stomach. Damn.
Not quite. So every time any one of my employees gets the sniffles and a sore throat, they can't come back to work until they get a negative test. And that's probably, close to 50% of the population probably gets a cold at some point throughout the winter?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we are screwed if we think anything is going to come back to normal without a vaccine before New Year's.
Anyways, that's Brad, today's shining ray of optimism.
Buddy,
I'm too tired of even like thinking about how they managed to pull this bubble off, and like, kudos to them for doing it. The NHL really has done a stellar job with it. I will not subject myself to worrying about what's going to happen in December yet. I think Bill Daly said in his comment on like the whole should we do this mini camp thing, where he said, yeah, we've had conversations, but I'm not going to lie to you, this isn't exactly a front burner issue for us right now. You can only take it like a week at a time.
Yeah, that's fair.
I booked the days off for the draft today, though. Have you guys done it?
When is that again?
Yep.
The weekend of October 9th.
Yeah, remind me like September.
Nope, I'll remind you tomorrow to book that off. Otherwise, you'll double.
What time's the draft at?
I don't know, but we're doing all day content, man.
That sounds horrible.
Wow.
We're literally turning your
So the Red
camera
Wings
on
haven't
at 8
skated
a.m.
for what feels like 85 years.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Howard is now the size of a single detached house. That's all I got.
Yeah. Oh, and there wasn't an endpoint to that?
I could go on for days, but...
And yet you sit there silently.
We have to fit in time for the YouTube ads.
And let's cut. No, I'm kidding. Okay. There's not too much other Red Wings news. Brome is confirmed to be playing over in Sweden for this season.
Wait, so he's not... How does that work? He signed a 1-year contract.
I think it's like an on loan thing. I don't know. I don't think it's been confirmed, but it's because they'll be starting before the NHL, right? So,
sure.
It's hard to keep track. None of this is being officially reported. It's all like up in the air. Anyhow, prospect profile. Today's prospect, as chosen by our very sleepy Brad, is none other than German compatriot of Tim Stützle, Lukas Reichel. Brad,
Lukas Reichel. The highly skilled, very soft son of a former NHLer. So we get to break trend. A highly skilled forward who can skate but is also tall. He's not 5'2", so we don't have to continue with that theme. So Lukas Reichel, great offensive IQ, supreme skill set, questionable compete level. Plays basically no physical game, very much a work in progress in his own end. I say all that, and I have him ranked in the mid-teens in the first round of my rankings because, to me, his skill set and his offensive IQ is that high. You can teach a guy to play a little more physical. You can teach him defensive responsibility, but what he can do in the offensive zone, not many players in this draft can do, and he was doing it for most of last season in the DEL. Again, a men's hockey league against professionals at 17 years old. That can't be understated. And he wasn't on the strongest team in the world either. So he was pulling the wagon. Like, it's not like he was just a passenger on this team.
Yeah, Lukas Reichel, when you said he's a project in his own zone, essentially all the excitement for him starts when he touches the puck, right? Like this is a guy who knows what to do when he gets it. Really great offensive sense, as Brad said, can do some pretty crafty things with the puck. You can see that he has not only a creative mind, but the puck ability and the offensive skill to execute. Thinks the game really well. I think he skates really well for his size. It's been mentioned by someone that they still think that they can add a ton of weight and strength to his frame. So, I mean, that's said about a lot of prospects, really. They said that about
any 17, 18-year-old for the most part.
Yeah, essentially. They told me I was going to be 6 feet tall, and I maxed out at 5'10", 5'9",
Damn,
3/4.
You almost got there.
I don't want to talk about it.
You still have time. We believe in you, buddy.
Thanks, pal. I appreciate you being friends with me. It makes me feel a lot better about my height. No, I like Reichel. I don't know if I'd put him as high as the mid-teens. I think that'd be a little bit of a swing in my mind, and I would bet that there would be other people available there if you're a team picking in that spot. But that said, he's one of my go-to favorite picks if he's there at Detroit for 32, depending on who slipped really far from the first round.
It would certainly be an excellent pick at 32. I can't imagine him staying at that point. If he's there in the late 20s, might be interested to see if they can trade up for him, but his skill set's so good already, and I was just looking it up. He was the 4th highest points per game for someone under the age of 18 in the DEL. So that's pretty good. Like, I don't think we have a shot at drafting him, but stranger things have happened. We ended up with Joe Veleno.
Yeah.
You never know, but definitely not betting on it.
And if the Red Wings don't end up with Tim Stützle, I'm sure Moritz Seider would be happy with a Lukas Reichel on his team.
Yes.
Although Tim Stützle really seems to be Moritz's preferred pick there. Hey, and I said, I don't think it could happen, and he fell to us in a mock draft, so.
I'm sure Steve Yzerman will do his best.
Ottawa in that mock draft walked away with Raymond and Rossi, so not a bad haul for them.
Not even a little. How do we get that?
You trade away the best defenseman of the generation for unprotected first round picks.
Yeah, that did do it.
And have the team that you traded him away to just completely, utterly fail to put things together, so to speak. Man. Oh, well. Is it already time for overtime? Is there anything else to talk about?
It's been 40 minutes.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a fast episode. 6 hours.
Brad did beg us before this episode to go fast because he is, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see he is dead behind his eyes. When did this happen? You were fine, like...
I've been feeling this since Monday. Tuesday and Wednesday were the top of the curve. Today still sucks. Like, I was running a fever on Tuesday well over 100. Like, it was bad.
Oh, big Rona guy.
Did you get tested?
No, because I don't have any of the chest or throat stuff. It's all in my stomach.
Yikes. Anyways, you should go get a test just because it's funny to watch you get something shoved really far up your nose.
Think of the Patreon exclusive content you could be delivering.
If you get your test and record it, I'll post my test video as well.
No.
Well, you heard that first, patrons. I care more about shitty Patreon content than Brad does. Anyhow, let's move over to overtime, where on this midweek episode, we are going to read exclusively from Patreon as our way of saying thank you for supporting the Winged Wheel podcast and Brad's decrepit body. We're going to start with Garrett TV. He says, Hockey Amigos, Chicago is on the cusp of eliminating themselves from the annual lottery shit show TM, Lafreniere edition, and I've got all the time in the world for that. Also, as a general note, fricking hockey is back. What's been your favorite moment so far? Mine may be a bit subdued, but yesterday's Jeff Petrie goal line snipe was absolute, pure, unadulterated nastiness. That's the type of low-angle robbery that Crosby does, and we drool over for 3 days. Love me a good top-shelf goal line banger. Oh dear, hockey. Grind it out, boys. Let's eventually go Red Wings.
I mean, that shot was ridiculous. I remember watching them live, and I saw them leave him there. I'm like, yeah, should they leave him that open? All right then. That was definitely a top tier moment. I'm trying to think. Andrei Svechnikov's hat trick was fun.
Yeah. Philip Forsberg swan diving over the blue line. I think that was fun.
That was terrific. Oh God, I don't even know what to call it. This circus in Carolina's crease towards the end of the second period in that last game there, where Sami Vatanen made a shoulder save and then James Reimer made a cross the crease diving blocker save. That was fun. That Rangers Carolina series, I'm actually upset only lasted 3 games. That was fun.
I would love to name more Edmonton Chicago moments, but how many people have seen that, considering they play it at 10:30 Eastern? You have an original 6 team who has no business being there, so that you're lucky that you have such a TV draw, playing Connor McDavid, and you put them at the latest time slot. I get it. They want to appeal to the fan base in Edmonton, but here's a trick for you, NHL. Here's a little tip. Edmonton's fans will watch no matter what time the game is on. Showcase Connor McDavid to the frickin' world. Play them at 7 p.m. Play them at 8 p.m. What are you doing? Do you want to grow the game or not? It's Connor McDavid, and he's having a phenomenal series. Show him off.
This is such a classic NHLism.
Oh my God. As Brad so poetically put earlier, and these are the words of a father, they shit on themselves and then they manage to shit on themselves again. That's a man who's changed too many diapers in his life.
Yeah.
Fun story for you guys. In the early days, Evan and I were talking to Brad when Crystal was still pregnant with Mika. And Brad mentioned something offhand where he's like, oh yeah, and I'm not doing any diapers. And Evan and I were like, you're probably going to end up doing diapers at some point. And Brad goes, I don't do poop. And Evan and I were like,
you do now,
kids poop.
I forget, like, Crystal and I made a trade because there was a couple chores around the house she absolutely hated. And I'm like, I will do them 1,000% of the time if you never make me change a poopy diaper. And that actually held up for a few months. And then logistically, it just wasn't possible anymore.
Yeah, no, that wasn't going to happen anymore.
Everybody sees some shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like the first week I took a bunch because obviously, Crystal had to go through unspeakable pain. So I'm like, yeah, I'll suck it up. And then as soon as she's like, yeah, I'm feeling good now, I'm like, okay, can we try this? And she's like, oh, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. And then, yeah, it wasn't that either of us got tired of the deal. It was just, if I'm alone with the kids or with Mika, I didn't have a choice.
Ovechkin Stan Club says, Chicago looking really good. Ovi and the boys play today. I can't wait. Big Brother is back, and it's frickin' amazing time to be alive. I've decided I'm rooting for one of the three teams to win the lottery. Flavortown Jackets, Mini Pop Wild, and Arizona. This team shouldn't exist. Those are the three I will be glad about. Well, Washington has lost their second game. Sad times, but it's not over. Positive vibes. I like that we have a happy Washington fan in our midst. It's nice to have some positivity.
Right? You forget what it feels like to cheer for a team that's good.
Jonathan Melwish says, hey guys, coming from the UK, I'm pretty invested in Liam Kirk, the first British trained player drafted in the NHL by Arizona and playing for the Peterborough Petes. Have you seen any film from him over the past few years? And if you have, do you think he might make the main roster at some point?
He's a long shot. As an overager in the OHL, he had a good year. I shouldn't say overager, but he's on the older side of the league, we'll say. He had a good year, but generally legit NHL prospects at that stage in their career are putting up comical numbers in the OHL, and he wasn't there. He was considerably outscored by Nick Robertson, his teammate, and Robertson's younger than him. So it's not to say there's no chance for Kirk. He might get a cup of tea eventually, but there's the skill isn't high end enough to fill me with a ton of hope that one day he'll be a regular, and I'm pulling for him because it would be a great story. But yeah, I think he'll be a long shot.
Alex Ott says, on a scale from 1 to post-cup winning Ovechkin, how much will you guys be drinking when Lafreniere goes to the Penguins? I think I'll be shooting for Brett Hall during the Blues Cup parade myself. On a related note, if the Canadiens beat the Penguins and we swept the Canadiens, does that mean we now own the Penguins and therefore also own the first overall pick in this year's draft? Yzerman is really playing chess while everyone else plays checkers. Yeah, I mean, it's only fair, and if the NHL wants to talk about spicing things up, that would be an Uno reverse card like no other.
I mean,
your move, Gary Bettman.
If the Penguins win the draft lottery, I'm probably going to be like John Daly on the 18th hole.
I'm going to be like Brad at his bachelor party kicking a football around in the parking lot across the street from his house.
I don't remember anything from that night.
You were a mess the next day.
Oh, you have no idea. You guys, the diaper party was worse. Oh, that was bad.
Evan and I did not come to the diaper party, I don't believe.
No.
We went to the gender reveal, though.
Yeah. Yeah, the diaper party was, I remember my buddy showing up with the first box of diapers, seen missing, waking up the next morning.
Joe Delia says, hey guys, who do you think is the most universally loved / least hated player in the league? Scheifele, Kessel? I'd say McDavid, but I'm sure some of the Pacific teams are tired of him posterizing half their D-men. Also inject every meme or video of D'Angelo and Lemieux getting shit kicked into my veins. Thanks, guys.
Sorry, most loved? Most loved. The two that immediately come to mind are Henrik Lundqvist and Patrice Bergeron. Because if you can play in Boston and you're still universally loved, that's saying something.
People love pasta as well. They really like
that's a good one. That's a really good one too.
I don't know.
Carey Price? Does anyone dislike Carey Price?
Yeah, I mean he's brutally beat people with his blocker before in the back.
Yeah, talk to Rangers fans about Carey Price. They're not fans.
Who's the most? Lidstrom would have been an easy answer when he was in the league. Michael Barry says, hi guys, hope all is well. Who would be the toughest cap casualty to watch if their contract plays for the Red Wings? With the way the playoffs are going, I could see Jack Johnson being traded to the Wings and have a gentleman's agreement to not be bought out for 3 years. Also, another vote is King Lundqvist for different reasons. Oh, watching Lundqvist's career die on the Red Wings, I was thinking about that earlier today. That would make me I wouldn't even want it. No. I wouldn't even want it. It would make me so sad.
No, yep. He's got to
That
go.
is not the way his career should end.
No.
I don't want to see him anywhere but New York, but if he goes, it's got to be to a legit cup contender. It has to.
They owe that to him.
He's not going out a Red Wing. That poor bastard.
I don't know. Yeah, Jack Johnson's a good answer because he would just fit in with a crappy defense we've seen over the years. Any slow defenseman, really.
Just look at anybody with like an ungodly amount of term left, like Jack Johnson. Kyle Turris comes to mind. I think he's got more upside than Johnson, but he's still got, 4 years left? Yeah.
Louis Eriksson is playing some good hockey in Vancouver.
Yeah.
It might be harder to draw him away now. They might not give up as much.
Oh, they will, believe me, because they still need to find money for Toffoli and Markstrom, so someone's got to go. Maybe
to mention
Besser and Eriksson.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Here's a quick 12 million cap space for you, Vancouver.
Third Man In, who I believe is a new patron. Yes, thank you, Third Man In, and welcome to the Dub family. They say, hey friends, new Patreon supporter here. No question, just wanted to say thanks for the podcast. Between work and 4 kids, most of my hockey these days is coaching my kids' Might team, listening to your pod and a couple others. I found you guys this spring and it's meant a lot, so I wanted to chip in. Sorry, I can't be more. Hey, don't be sorry. Your support means the world. People like you are the reason we can keep recording through this offseason, so thank you so much, and welcome. Glad you're enjoying the show. Chris Smith says Carey Price might have just made the case for Askarov at 4. I would still hate it, but having an elite goalie changes a team. Without Price, an elite goal scorer, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, this team has no place in these playoffs, and yet they're 1 game away from making the playoffs. If we do end up drafting Askarov, you can always talk yourself down by saying, well, he's big and he should be a force in front of the net. That same line helped me cope with the top 10 pick from a few years ago. Ugh.
So can we talk about Kotkaniemi for a moment here?
Yeah, sure.
He has the ultimate neck beard. Like the hair goes right to his jawline and stops. There is he has a beard where there is barely any hair on his actual face. It is remarkable. And I'm not one to sit here and chirp bad beards because I'm the king of them right now, but oh my God, it is a sight to see.
He's played some good hockey. He has the Andrew Luck beard, but somehow worse. I'm glad you brought that up. Other notable Montreal player, Carey Price. Let's say Carey Price goes, white hot, and Montreal's all of a sudden in the conference finals. Despite the other 95% of the season in which, he wasn't that fantastic, and his cap hit hurt Montreal. Let's say they luck out and they just have all the right things fall their way and they end up winning the cup. Is that contract worth it?
I would sign 10 Justin Abdelkaders for what he's making right now if it meant 1 cup.
Right? Like, I still think my philosophy on goaltenders is a pretty common one at this point, which is they're so hard to predict. Even if you can get a fantastic one, which it looks like Askarov, who is the highest rated goalie prospect in the first round in a long time, is likely to be a really good goaltender. It's just so hard to time them. Their development is so wacky. They're hot and cold all at the right and wrong times. It's hard to hedge your bets on a goalie because then you're going to have to pay them and you're going to have to pay them big money because it's hard to get a consistent superstar goalie. And then you don't have a team around them. I don't know.
It's not even worth it. Like, you can find goalies that for some reason get hot later in their career. So investing in drafting one that high, just the ROI on it just doesn't make sense.
What's the highest pick that you would be comfortable with Detroit taking Askarov? And let's say all the picks
pick
this year?
Yeah. Let's say all the picks ahead of him were like your consensus picks in your mind.
Like if he goes in the second round, that makes me think like there's something wrong going on. And
yeah, he's not getting that far. I'm just looking at my rankings here. Are we talking about where I would or where I'd be comfortable?
Where you'd be comfortable, like pushing your limits a little bit, but you wouldn't. At the end of the day, you go, okay, yeah.
10.
Okay.
10.
I think there's a chance he falls to 10. I think it's more likely like
I would bet he falls to 10. I bet he falls to 10. The teams that are likely picking 7 to 9, I don't think are going to be super goalie needy teams.
Is Minnesota drafting?
Likely just outside of the top 10, but it depends on how the play-ins go here. So
that's true.
Because I don't think he gets past Minnesota in all likelihood, but who knows?
Benji says, hey gang, sorry to say that this season will be my last season as a Wings fan through and through. I'm a Kraken fan now, and I can't wait. I can see the arena from my balcony, and I feel like I'm obligated to buy season tickets for Seattle's inaugural season. I'm taking donations to help me finance this endeavor. It will be repaid in beer and a ticket to a game at the Greenhouse if y'all ever come out west. I just hope somehow Seattle manages to get to Tar. That would make my first Seattle jersey too easy. Anywho, boys, hope y'all are ready to see Lafreniere go to either Chicago, Pittsburgh, or Toronto. Peace.
Yeah.
Oh, the moment the world is back open, we're making 2 trips over the next few years: Vegas and Seattle.
The crack den.
Mike Lennox says, what would you need as return for taking on both Sutter and Louis Eriksson? And would you rather have a pick in the 20s or Niels Höglander? Ooh, good question.
Depends on the draft. This draft, I'd probably rather have the pick in the 20s. And if we're talking about taking on Sutter and Eriksson, we're getting Demko and Höglander at a minimum.
Yeah, you got to be talking about premium assets at that point. That's a lot of money and a lot of term.
Multiple premium assets. Like that is cap hell for a couple of years, even for a team like that. Eliminates all of Detroit's cap flexibility. It's gone. You want to save your team's ass because of the bad contracts that you've signed completely, so you can sign your Bessers and your Hughes and your Petterssons and them. The team trading you knows that, and they better be leveraging an arm and a leg. That is where you have to mortgage your futures if you want both those guys gone. Demko without a doubt, Höglander without a doubt, minimum. I'd be asking a lot there. Yes, sir.
Joseph Fournier says, hey there, fellas. I mean, if they're getting rid of those guys, presumably they then keep Besser. Although I don't know, they have a lot.
It is Jim Benning, Ryan.
Yeah.
Don't you dare bring logic and reason into this.
It's the same GM that got him into that situation. Joseph Fournier says, hey there, fellas. I got to tell you, I've been doing nothing but drinking beer and watching hockey these last few days, and this is the happiest I've been in a while. There's still some things to get used to, like elite power forward Kevin Hayes. Kevin Fiala is the Minnesota Wild's version of the trade was 1-for-1. Okay, but that took a while to pan out, right?
Oh, yeah. He was a healthy scratch at points this season.
Under Boudreau, he was a healthy scratch, and that was for Granlund, who's no slouch.
And then what happened?
How has Granlund been doing?
The fact you have to ask that answers that question.
Yep, you're totally right. So long term, yeah, that's turned out well for them, but it definitely wasn't perceived that way at the beginning. With all this team name talk, I looked up the other proposed names for the Wild: Freeze, Northern Lights, Blue Ox, White Bears, Voyageurs. Seriously, each of you rename the Wild, even 69 guy if he's there. There's got to be a better name.
Blue Ox was on the table, and
Minnesota
they didn't go with that.
The Northern Lights? That is awful.
Oh my God. That way to hang on to the North Stars for just a little too long there.
They should have just made it the North Stars.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. We get to rename
what about,
the Minnesota Wild?
What?
Yeah. Yeah, rename the Minnesota Wild.
The Muskies.
The Muskies?
Yeah, Minnesota Muskies. Oh, sure, the Huskies too.
What's a muskie?
It's a fish.
Oh. The Minnesota Steelheads. Did they have steelheads? I don't know much about fish.
That's awful.
I'd go with the Minnesota Fargos.
The Minnesota Twin Cities.
The Minnesota Silver Linings Playbook.
Nice. Good movie.
The Minnesota Nordiques.
The Come On Over, Hey Minnesotas. I don't know. Minnesota. I think, honestly, Minnesota North Stars would have been the best one.
The Minnesota Pops.
You need to give me a new one, Ryan. You can't just say an old team name.
The Minnesota... What's the
Mathematicians?
Name of yeah.
There we go, baby.
The Minnesota Mathematicians. Just a bunch of freaking nerds out there. bunch of geeks. They just get bullied. They get their lunch money taken before every game.
Calculators. They have a breast pocket spot on their jerseys for their calculators and pencils. Mechanical pencils, of course.
Joseph Fournier goes on to say, I think it's more likely Dubas moves out a tertiary player like Kapanen or Nylander instead of his core this offseason to help with the cap. Is there a trade to Detroit that makes sense? Stay fresh, cheese bags.
No, because we have nothing they want.
Is there a cap dump that Toronto's desperately going to need to, like, what's their cap situation like?
It's bad, but they don't have a bad contract. They have good players on expensive contracts, so it's a unique problem to have. So they will not be likely dumping anybody, but there is trades for Toronto to explore where they're unloading good players, but they will also be expecting good players in return. And good players are what the Red Wings generally don't have, especially at the position Toronto needs them, which is defense.
Yeah, like Toronto's in a window right now where, believe it or not, like they have Matthews at 11.6 and Marner at 10.8, and that might be significantly cheaper than their next contract. So their next 5 years or 6 years are crucial, especially because Tavares right now is still 29. So they still have prime years or prime-ish years left in him. Their window is now, so they're not going to be moving out a Kapanen for a prospect of Detroit. It's just not going to work that way. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it's there with Toronto. Not with Detroit, at least. Detroit's got to look more towards traditionally cap-strapped teams.
No, we're going to have to look for trades like William Nylander for Brett Pesce. They get a good player at a position of need who is almost $3 million cheaper on the cap. That is what they're going to be looking to do.
I was talking to Max about this. Would you, if you were either Columbus or Toronto, do Seth Jones for Mitch Marner?
I would do that if I was Columbus.
Yes.
You would do that if you're Toronto, though, right?
How
probably.
Seth Jones?
I think Mitch Marner is a better overall player.
I agree.
And he'll have more impact on the game. But yeah, with the cap implications, I'd probably do that, actually, both ways.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about Toronto, let's picture Toronto and let's say Mitch Marner was never in the picture. They still have the offensive talent to be a cup contender in my mind.
Yeah.
You add Seth Jones, who's about a year, maybe a year and a half older. He's cap controlled for 2 more seasons at half the price, literally half the price of Mitch Marner. You'd be hard pressed.
Seth Jones is 25 years old.
Yeah.
But the risk there is you're giving up, 7 years of Mitch Marner for maybe only 2 of Seth Jones?
You're giving up 100 points as well.
That's another decision. Like, is it 100% equitable? No, but hockey is not always to build the best team on paper to score, the most style points in building a complete roster. Like, if it's not working, it's not working. Sometimes you have to make drastic moves.
The most views on TikTok.
Legitimately. So Seth Jones, you add Seth Jones to Toronto right now. That's a team that has significantly fewer problems on the back end. You got a Pittsburgh type run.
The other problem with getting rid of someone like Mitch Marner is it makes it slightly easier for other teams to game plan against Toronto. When you've got Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, and Marner, it makes it so much more complicated. So just removing one of those faucets makes it substantially easier. It's still not easy, but it certainly makes... What did I say?
You said faucets.
Facets?
Facets.
Oh, fuck, I'm going to be a tree bucket now.
No, you're totally right. And my first thought is, well, if they can go back in time, they wouldn't have traded Kadri then. Right? You keep Kadri, and if you have to move Marner, I don't know. I don't know if I would ever have the balls as a GM to trade Mitch Marner.
It's just, I think the real problem is it didn't really work out with Tyson Barrie, and that's where we've now come back to this conversation.
Anyhow, well, I think that's the Winged Wheel podcast for today. We'll let Brad escape and sleep. Brad, I implore you to either get better, otherwise get tested. If you need anything, pal, let me know and I'll throw it at your house from my car. But until then, we'd like to thank you all for tuning into this episode of the podcast. We will be back on Sunday. We'd like to thank all of our listeners, all of you who have given us reviews on iTunes. Holy shit, I cannot thank you enough. It means so much. Our name level Patreon sponsors, these are the people who are the engine behind the Winged Wheel podcast. The septic tank of that bitch, Carol Baskins. I love opening with that. Arjun Shankar, Greach, Jeremiah Dobo, Jake Kiefer, Ovechkin Stan Club, Brad Smith, Andrew Bohan, Scott Martin, Jacob Turner, Matt McKay, Brandon M., Matthew M. Rice, Luke Johnson, Kaylin Wood, Hassam Al-Qassem, Charlie Elkins, Hana Lee, Trevor Pevavar, Chris Ripley, Alex Ott, Ashley Van Conant, Chris Frank, Connor Leighton, Matthew Keeler, Simon Anderson, Antonio Gracias, John Evans, Quaz, and Stan Olson. Thank you all. We love you. Say your goodbyes to Brad.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.